I know that with certain big brands in sports, there tends to be a riding the roller coaster, riding the ebbs and flows emotionally, especially if you're talking about the NBA. You're talking about an 82-game season. There's highs and lows. You go on winning streaks, losing streaks. Some days the fan base thinks we're going to sweep our way to the championship. Others, we may get swept in round one. It's all over the place. And look no further than the great people of New York, Knicks fans who love their basketball team, who go viral on an annual basis the last few years during the playoffs after big wins at home at Madison Square Garden. We know about Spike Lee, Tracy Morgan, Fat Joe, Ben Stiller, Timothy Chalamet, all the celebrities that sit courtside. There's a lot of ups and downs when it comes to the Knicks. And as recently as, 10 days ago, got trounced once again, third game, by the Detroit Pistons. Well, yesterday afternoon at MSG, facing a real true blue contender, the San Antonio Spurs, the New York Knicks put belt to destroyed San Antonio, ended their long winning streak. And, I'm seeing a lot of, there seems to be a general sort of consensus about not just who the best three teams in the East are, but the three teams that can realistically say, we can win the conference. It's the Detroit Pistons, the Boston Celtics, didn't mean to hit my headphones there, and the New York Knicks. Like, those are the three teams everyone agrees upon. The standings reflected, the betting odds reflected, our general consensus as fans and media reflected. Those are the three best teams in the East. I think it is fair to say Detroit's proven themselves to be the best team. I think Detroit is the clear-cut favorite to make the finals out of the East. Kate Cunningham is a legit MVP candidate, and that is even without the ridiculous rules that could keep Jokic and SGA from being in contention. That's another conversation for another show. Cade's a legit MVP candidate. Jalen Duren, all these guys. Here's what I'll say about the Knicks, though. Because one of the major cases that people have had against them is they kind of struggle against good teams. Last year, they were just straight awful against true blue championship contenders. What is that reflected in? Well, in large part, the regular season standings. If you look at the top three seeds in the Western Conference and top three in the East as well, they were one of them last year. The Knicks were themselves the 3 seed. Last year, folks, against top three seed teams in the West and the East. Did you know the New York Knicks were 1-13? 1-13 in that stretch. This year, they're 5-5. We can just go and show you the graphic. Like, top three seeds in both conferences. Last year, 1-13. They lost on average by 13.9 points a game. And in this case, they're 5-5, lose by an average about 2 points a game. Well, obviously that number got much better after they dominated San Antonio yesterday. I'll talk more about the Spurs in just a few minutes because I'm very, very high on them. But with New York, I think, again, some of it's the big brand, some of it's people overreacting in the moment. Things aren't going so well. Folks say, they just can't beat Detroit. I'm old enough to remember a year ago, didn't they literally get swept badly outside of the last time they played in the regular season by the Boston Celtics? Swept in the regular season. I mean, Boston crushed them in 3 of the 4 matchups, and in the 4th, it went to overtime. That game didn't really mean much to Boston. And once you get to the playoffs, they beat him in 6. Jason Tatum went down. Yes, Jason Tatum did go down. Jason Tatum might be back sooner rather than later. More on that in just a moment. But at the time Jason Tatum went down in that series, there was 3 minutes to go in Game 4. Knicks are up 2-1 in the series. 3 minutes to go in Game 4. Knicks got a 7-point lead. Now, the game's not over. In today's NBA, with the 3-point shot, the game's far from over. And Tatum actually had it going in that game as the best playoff game he'd had in 2-3 years. But the reality is, they probably weren't going to win that series. Again, if you think they come back in Game 4, okay, Boston ends up winning Game 5, the Knicks end up housing the Celtics in Game 6. Okay, there was still the Kristaps Porzingis health concern, which I'm a Warriors fan. I'm seeing what's going on with that in the organization right now. There was still the lack of depth that the Celtics have beyond their best 6 or 7 players. And so you mean to tell me this year, and I know every year's different in the NBA, but you mean to tell me this year, is Jason Tatum coming back to the Celtics? Because I think he is. Bill Simmons went out and said, yeah, it could be this Friday against Dallas. Like, Jason Tatum could be back before the weekend. Like, that's a very real possibility. So if that's being put out there, Tatum's coming back before the playoffs, well before the postseason starts for Boston. Why on earth am I supposed to think that a Jason Tatum, fresh off an Achilles surgery, trying to work his way back in the lineup, it's been almost a year since he's played basketball, coming back to a very, very different basketball team than what he left? Obviously, no Drew Holiday, no Al Horford, no Kristaps Porzingis. Now it's obviously it's Drew Holiday, or not Drew Holiday. It's you still have Jaylen Brown and Derek White. You guys know I love Derek White, but you've added Nikola Vucevic, and you've got a number of role players around them. Jaylen Brown also MVP candidate. Now the Celtics kind of have to change how they play a little bit, whereas they didn't have to do that last year because they had the same cohesive unit all season long trying to defend their title. And so you mean to tell me the Knicks are just cooked against Detroit, or that they're not better than Boston today? I reject that. And I think what you saw yesterday, this sort of not segues me directly into San Antonio, but it's somewhat related in the sense that the number one main concern that people have about the Spurs isn't really related to their on-court production. It's not. It's like, oh, they're really young. I mean, the vet in their starting lineup is De'Aaron Fox, and I don't think he's 30 yet. Wemby's never been in the playoffs. Vassell, Stephon Castle, all these guys, like, never been in the postseason. They've got vets like Harrison Barnes, but by and large, Spurs are a pretty young team. Like, if you had to, I obviously do my NBA playoff strengths and weaknesses just like I do for the NFL in a month. Like, what's the biggest reason the Spurs won't win the title? A lot of folks think age. That's going to hurt them. What I would say in terms of on-court, maybe physicality, size and physicality bothers them to a certain degree. Karl-Anthony Towns, I don't know. Looks like he bothered Wemby a little bit. Now, Wemby still had a pretty good game. I think he had 25 points, but Cat seemed to bother him a little bit. Mikal Bridges, did his thing, had 25 points in the game. Kudos to him. You got OG Anunoby, who, by the way, himself was guarding Victor Wembanyama, giving him problems. We know who Jalen Brunson is the postseason. He's the clutchest player we've seen in the last 5 years outside of Tyrese Halliburton. And listen, the thing that has done the Knicks in over the last few years, let's be honest, it's been Tibbs. It's been the fact that, Tom Thibodeau doesn't really believe in having a bench. he believes in using 6. If he's going really wild, maybe play a 7th player about 10 minutes and that's it. Run his starters into the ground, and by the end of the second round, or if they get to a conference finals, everybody's gassed. That's why the Knicks, who are a great clutch time team last year, with the clutch player of the year, Jalen Brunson, couldn't finish games against Indiana. Now, some of that's also Indiana was unbelievably clutch in the postseason, led, of course, by Tyrese Halliburton. Get well soon, Hallie. So now this year, you have a Mike Brown who, yes, while he has, his limitations as a coach, mostly on the offensive side of the basketball, Knicks are fine on that end. That offense was never the Knicks' problem. If he has them locking in on defense like he did yesterday, I mean, think about this, folks. Spurs scored 89 points yesterday. They had about 22 points halfway through the first quarter. So for the last, do the math, 42 minutes of the game, the Knicks held the Spurs to 67 points. That's for a team that's on a double-digit game winning streak, that's something. For a team in San Antonio that is by the game gaining on Oklahoma City, and I think at this point, frankly, is going to catch OKC in the standings. Obviously, they got the tiebreaker being 4-1 against the Thunder. That's saying something. Now, maybe you can chalk it up to afternoon game. Knicks always get up for those. Knicks are used to playing that 1 o'clock or at the latest 3:30, matinee games at MSG. Spurs aren't really necessarily, especially on the road. Spurs have been in New York City. I think they got to New York like early Thursday morning. They played the Nets, a couple of days off. Then they played an early game against the Knicks. They've gone on a winning streak. Like, eventually, listen, no winning streak's going to last forever, obviously. It was the next day. But what I will say is this, because many of you know, as I talked about before the season started, my pick to win the NBA Finals, my pick to come out of the West and win the Finals, if they were healthy, was my beloved Golden State Warriors. Well, I don't know if you noticed the Warriors lately. Jimmy Butler's got a blown ACL. Steph hasn't played in a month. And Kristaps Porzingis has played 1 game as a Warrior. So it ain't going to happen. Who's my pick out of the East? It was the Knicks. They've taken, they've taken this slow, steady progression, made some changes, obviously brought in Cat last year, brought in a new coach this year, where it's 2023, win a playoff series, 24, win a playoff series, and get to a game 7 despite the injuries. Last year, conference finals. Well, next logical step, NBA finals. Obviously, they beat Detroit in a playoff series last year. Both teams are a year more mature, and the Knicks have a better coach now, I think, than they did a year ago with Mike Brown over Tom Thibodeau. Let's not forget Mike Brown. You see what the Sacramento Kings are right now? Mike Brown coached that team with De'Aaron Fox, of course, to pushing the defending champion Warriors 7 games in 2023. Mike Brown can coach. Mike Brown's from the Steve Kerr coaching tree. Guy knows what he's doing. He's not, no one's going to accuse him of being Ty Lue or Spoelstra or something. He can coach. I think the Knicks are for real. Mikal Bridges talked about their defense after the game.
You were down 10 early and soon after went on a 19-point run. What turned that around?
Just defense, we did a great job defensively as a team and just helping each other out. Sometimes there'd be some missed coverages, but, next guy stepping up for each other, that's huge for us.
To that point, where have you guys gotten better defensively? Mike Brown said that you guys have just been better on defense.
Yeah, I think just especially in pick and roll and I think just helping the helper. I think just helping more. I think in the past sometimes we're leaving guys on the island and not trusting each other as much. But, we talked about it and know we had to be better and, we keep getting better at it.
And that last point that Mikal Bridges makes, that's a Mike Brown quote, so to speak. That's where he specializes, defensive end of the floor. And so if this Knicks team can be able to lock it in that, in this side of the basketball, Jalen Brunson does his thing offensively. Again, there's always going to be the criticism, the concern. What Karl-Anthony Towns are you getting from a game-to-game basis? You could be getting 27 and 12, or you could be getting 20 and 7. I mean, it really does depend game to game. Some of it depends on if he gets into foul trouble. It's this weird dynamic with Cat because there's this, and by the way, I'm not even disagreeing with this. There's always been this push. Shaq and Chuck have been, the guys talking about this for a long time. Man, you're 6'10", 6'11", big guy, physical. Get your butt down the block and be able to dominate people down low. And Cat's response, I'm sure, is like, A, I'm a great shooter, number one. Number two, when I am physical, I get in foul trouble. And now my team can't have me at all for stretches of games. Those things don't have to be mutually exclusive. You can be able to get your butt down the block, especially in the offensive end of the floor, without being a guy who gets into foul trouble, who's on the bench on a consistent basis. I just think it feels like it's one of those years where it's just kind of a team's time to break through in either of the conferences. So like in the West, it's the great teams are mostly young. Or in the teams that aren't young have already won before. The Lakers have won before with LeBron. The Nuggets have won with Nikola Jokic. OKC's won with Shea, and they're still young. San Antonio's young. Houston's young. Is it Minnesota's turn to break through? Out East, Detroit's young. Boston has already won. Is it now the Knicks' time and turn to get to their first final since 1999? Maybe. It's on the board. So everybody was just panicking the last few weeks prior to this game. It's like, hey, it's a long season. You go through rough stretches. Knicks are going to be fine. There's battle tests as any team to playoffs that hasn't been to a finals. I mean, they are. So, I mean, you tell me, you going to trust Cleveland more? You going to trust James Harden more than Jalen Brunson? I think you're talking about the wrong left-handed guard. Thanks so much for watching the show on YouTube, and be sure to go click that big red subscribe button and check out the other clips and full shows from Carving It Up Live, as well as our other incredible content creators here on the Grid Network.